Please be aware, in this podcast series we talk about all areas of safeguarding, which some people may find upsetting. So please make sure you're okay listening to today's topic. Be mindful of those around you, such as children, that you might not want to listen in. Hi, I'm SSS Safeguarding Director Sam Preston.
And I'm former head teacher and content author Sarah Spinks.
Hello, and today we are discussing an urgent and deeply concerning issue, the Church of England's ongoing safeguarding crisis. For years, the Church has been plagued by allegations of abuse and institutional cover-ups, but recent events, including the resignation of Archbishop Justin Welby, have brought these issues to the forefront again. So despite appointing Archbishop Stephen Cottrell as his successor, concerns remain about how the Church handles safeguarding, and many argue that without radical reform, meaningful change will never happen. So what's going wrong, and what can the Church learn from schools, which operate under strict, externally regulated safeguarding frameworks?
I think this is a difficult but important topic, Sam. You know, the Church of England has a serious safeguarding problem. And while the education sector is far from perfect, it offers a much stronger model that the Church really could learn from.
So, yeah, I agree. Let's start with the big question. Why is the Church of England still struggling with safeguarding despite years of scrutiny?
Well, I think there are several major issues, but one of the biggest is decentralisation. So the Church operates across 42 autonomous dioceses, so each with its own leadership and safeguarding policies. This inconsistency makes it incredibly difficult to enforce uniform safeguarding standards, which means that in some dioceses, mistakes keep happening.
And that is a stark contrast to schools, which do follow national safeguarding frameworks.
Exactly. In schools, safeguarding is legally governed by clear national policies. So England, keeping children safe in education, KCSAE. Wales has keeping learners safe. Scotland, national guidance for child protection. Northern Ireland, safeguarding and child protection in schools. So these frameworks ensure consistency. So every school is held to the same standard, and external inspections by Ofsted, Estin, Education Scotland and ETI enforce compliance. In contrast, the Church lacks an independent safeguarding regulator, making it much harder to hold dioceses accountable.
So why, this seems like the obvious question, Why hasn't the Church introduced a similar external safeguarding body? Why isn't there an external body?
Well, the hierarchical structure of the Church is a major barrier, so bishops hold enormous power within their diocese, and many still have direct control over safeguarding decisions. So this creates a huge conflict of interest where protecting the Church's reputation can sometimes be prioritised over protecting victims.
So there's a real inbuilt flaw in the system. And I'm just reflecting on schools, it's precisely the reason that the external regulation and that national policy was put in place. Because in the past, and I do know of cases where leadership of individual schools did make flawed decisions, and all of that regulation was brought in to protect against that.
Yeah.
In schools, safeguarding leads are trained professionals and they work independently from school leadership. They don't answer to the head teacher when reporting abuse.
Exactly. And in contrast, church safeguarding teams often report to bishops, who may downplay allegations, delay action, or even fail to report abuse to external authorities. I'm not saying that every bishop's doing this, by the way. It's just, it could be that case. So a perfect example of this is Reverend David Tudor. So he was placed under safeguarding restrictions, but continued in ministry under Archbishop Cottrell's leadership. So cases like this, they fuel the perception that the Church still puts institutional loyalty over victim welfare.
So if the Church wants to fix its safeguarding failures, What lessons can it take from schools?
Well, there are 6 key reforms needed. First, the church must create an independent safeguarding authority, like Ofsted for English schools, to oversee safeguarding and to enforce compliance. The Independent Safeguarding Board, the ISB, was meant to do this, but it collapsed in 2023 due to governance issues.
So self-regulation's failed then?
Completely. The church needs external oversight to rebuild trust, really. Secondly, it must standardise safeguarding policies across dioceses. Schools follow one national framework, but the church has inconsistent policies across all 42 of its dioceses.
And third, bishops should be removed from safeguarding decisions?
I think so, yeah. So in schools, designated safeguarding leads, not head teachers, handle child protection. In the church, bishops have too much control, and that can lead to conflicts of interest. So safeguarding must be handled by independent professionals.
And I suppose the obvious for me, what about training?
Well, that's the 4th reform. Mandatory safeguarding training for all clergy and staff. Schools require everyone, from teachers to caretakers, to be trained. The church needs the same consistent compulsory approach.
And that's a victim-first approach?
Yes, and that's the 5th reform. Schools prioritise child welfare with immediate intervention and trauma-informed care. The church must do the same. Faster response times, counselling and financial support for survivors.
And finally, what about external inspections?
Well, absolutely. Schools undergo regular safeguarding audits. The church does not. Without legally binding external reviews, safeguarding failures, I think, will continue.
So the solution is clear, really, isn't it? Independent oversight, uniform policies, professional safeguarding leads, mandatory training, victim first responses, and external audits.
Exactly. And without these, real reform won't happen.
So we know what needs to change then, but is the church actually moving in the right direction?
Well, yes and no. So after Professor Alexis Jay 2024 report, the church agreed to create 2 independent safeguarding bodies. One, an independent safeguarding operations body that was handling all the safeguarding decisions, and 2, an independent scrutiny and oversight body. So they were auditing safeguarding compliance. However, there's a huge problem. The church only approved these changes at the national level. So local dioceses still control their own safeguarding, which means conflicts of interest remain. Survivors and campaigners argue that full independence is the only way forward.
So there's progress, but the church is still holding on to control at local level, isn't it?
Exactly. The Synod delayed full independence for local dioceses, opting for further review instead. This decision has been heavily criticised because without full independence, safeguarding failures will continue.
Yeah, they will. So the big question, I suppose, is can the church regain public trust in safeguarding?
Well, only if it commits to full independent safeguarding reform, and that means external safeguarding audits, standardised policies, removing bishops from decision making, and a survivor-led approach. And without these, trust will remain broken, sadly. Schools have proven that strong safeguarding structures work. The school, I think, must follow the example.
Yeah, I think church, there's a lot the church can learn from that structure. So the time for internal reviews and empty promises is really over, isn't it? The church needs real enforceable reform.
Absolutely. Victims deserve justice and protection, not delays and loopholes.
Well, this has been a really, really interesting discussion. It's been really eye-opening, and I found this really insightful because looking at it from a distance, it does seem incredibly simple what needs to happen, but there's obviously a whole level of complexity. But no doubt we will be returning to this subject as things progress. Thanks, Sarah.